All right, so we are back for UFC 299 taking place in Miami, Florida. And I do have a quick confession to make. We actually recorded this a little bit earlier, and for some reason I thought this card was taking place in Canada. I had a really good moose and mount. I was that no one's gonna get to see, so frankly I'm gutted.
I saw it. It was funny.
It's probably for the best. It was corny dad joke territory, so you know. Anyway, what a card we have here from top to bottom. Again, I'll say mostly. I think we've got 14 or 15 fights. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I should have double checked. But we're going to get straight into things. But before we do, welcome as always to Antoine at Making the Walk MMA. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Ready for this card down in Vice City. I'm a big GTA nerd, I guess you could say. So this gives me all the GTA Vice City vibes. I'm super excited for this one.
Yeah, there is something special about Miami, isn't there? There just seems to be. I think it was the right call putting it here. It kind of gives it that extra little bit of buzz. So yeah, man, it should be a great one.
Miami is on the come up, man. They've reestablished themselves as a place for people to come and visit. It's not just Florida, man, anymore. They got real tourism going on right now, and I'm looking. I wish I would have been able to get to this one, but they'll have more events, and I look forward to getting down there for sure.
Yeah, you probably would have had to remortgage to get down there at this point, so maybe maybe it would have been a difficult one. Yeah. All right, anyway, so let's get straight into this. We're going to start with the early prelims. We've got a fight between Wood and MOROZ. Now, this is a fight that is a rematch to kind of kick things off, and it's perfect, really, because, it's a good fight to put on while everyone messes around trying to find parking outside. I mean, who really cares about this one? I'm going to take MOROZ. She nearly ripped Wood's arm off when they fought in 2015. And I don't think there's been much of a change in both of them, really. I think Wood's stand-up is absolutely terrible, and I don't really see where she wins this fight. And, MOROZ is not even that good. I think it might go a little bit longer this time than it did the last time, but I think taking MOROZ by sub or comfortably on the cards is good either way on this one.
Yeah, I gotta go with MOROZ. It's interesting because when Joanne was Calderwood, her striking was a lot better. When she became Wood, I don't know what happened. She forgot everything that she learned. Do you remember that when she fought Lauren Murphy, if she would have beaten Lauren Murphy, she might have fought for a belt. That's how close she was.
Yeah, she was.
And look how far we've fallen. She won a split decision over Carolina. And she's barely a UFC fighter. So I think this is kind of a put her out of her misery type of situation. She's 38. I think that we might see an early card retirement from Joanne Wood, but she's gonna lose.
Yeah, I think that's a good call because, like you said, she's got nowhere else to go now, and if she doesn't get through this one, which is looking very unlikely, this might be the end, and rightfully so. But it's a nice little fluffer piece to put on at the start of the card, I guess. I'll take it. All right, next one up, we've got a flyweight scrap between CJ Vergara and Asu Almabayev. Now, I have talked about Almabayev kind of extensively. I put him on my dark horse of flyweight, so this pick isn't going to surprise anyone. The dude's good. His striking is crispy, but I think what really impresses me the most about this dude is the way he transitions in the wrestling, and the threat he has on the ground is what makes this guy a serious problem. Now, Vergara is not terrible. He's very plucky, and he is quite hard to keep down. He has some pop in his shots as well, for a midget. But you're like, I expect Asu to dominate him. I wouldn't be surprised if this hit over 2.5 because, like I said, VERGARA is tricky to keep down on the ground. But I'm expecting this to be utter domination, and I think the Kazakh is going to win this very comfortably.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Now, I've counted VERGARA out of every fight that he's been in, to be honest. Especially the fight that he had down here in Texas, when he was losing that fight for sure. He was getting beat up, and I guess he decided he didn't want to get beat up in front of his family, so he came back and won that fight in a pretty impressive fashion. But I think this is just going to be too much. The pressure is going to be too much wrestling, and he's going to be fighting just to get to his feet the entire fight, and that's just not going to bode well for the judges. So yeah, I got to go with the guy from Kazakhstan.
Yeah, I think we both see it going the same way. I think it's going to be that, like, he'll be fighting off a lot of pressure, and I think he just gets exhausted doing it and doesn't have any time to put offense on, which is where I can see this fight going. Like, I think I quite like the over 2.5 as well for that reason as well. I do think VERGARA's tough. You know,
I would agree with that because of how, like you said, like how tough he is. He's not going to quit on himself. He's going to continue to, because he believes that he's one shot away from winning the fight. So yeah, he's not going to quit, but that's just going to mean it's going to be a decision that he'll lose. So unfortunately for him. Yeah,
I find it very difficult to see how he wins this one. All right, next up, we've got heavyweights, and I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce this guy's name. I think it's DESPAIGNE I'm going to go with, versus PERISIAN. I'm just going to go with that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know, won't be the first time, won't be the last. There's a Cuban guy, another one that apparently has escaped from several underground laboratories they have there. You know, the latest mutant to escape from that region. This guy is a freak. He has I found this out when doing a little bit of research. Apparently he has the longest reach recorded in UFC history and has won his last 3 fights by a combined 49 seconds. So all 3 fights together have been over in a combined 49 seconds. Now, let's forget that for a second and remember that PERISIAN is a fat, slow, old joke of a person. And I think he's going to get killed in there. And I just hope it's not literally, because this is a horrible potential opponent he's got in front of him right here. I will say one thing, because I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. We obviously haven't seen the Cuban fighter, what he can do if it somehow gets past the first round. And that is a concern. We've seen that happen in the past where guys that are used to starching guys, you know, they don't find that shot, maybe gas out a little bit when it gets, you know, a little bit later in the fight. I don't expect this to be a problem here because, you know, PERISIAN he's a fat mess. Let's just call it as it is. And I think the Cuban is going to brutalize him. I think it's going to be he's going to brutalize him in horrific fashion. I see a first round viral KO here.
Yeah, I think that for the Cuban, I'll just call him the Cuban. His nickname is the Big Boy. The Big Boy. It's actually a perfect nickname. He's 6'7", 87-inch reach. Just stupid. I do fear if it does get past the first round, and you can say a lot of negative things about Josh, but what you can't say is he doesn't have experience. He has fought, you know, over 20 times, so he does know some veteran tricks to perhaps get this into an area that's manageable for him if he doesn't get hit. So really, I feel like is do you think he's going to get hit or do you not? And in this case, I think he's just too hittable. I think he does get hit, and he gets put down in the first. And the hype train for DESPAIGNE, I think that's how you say it. I think that starts to get rolling, but he'll only be 5-0, so we'll see how that goes. But I think the hype train gets started. They start to put the coal in the engine, and it gets going with this fight.
which they have to quickly because, like I said, the guy is no spring chicken. I mean, we could have another Yoel Romero on our hands where he fights for another 10 years, but he's got to get going. I think he's 4-0 and he's 36 years old. He does have a lot of combat experience background, but he's very fresh in MMA, so
it's true.
It's, you know, I think they've given him the right opponent here, and I expect this to be, like I said, brutal. All right, next fight up, middleweights. We've got the battle of the Mikhels, Mikhail Pereira versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Now, I like Pereira a lot, and I think he's looked really fantastic since making the move up to middleweight. You know, he's a very creative striker, has impressive power, and he's so fun to watch. The problem that I have with Pereira is that he's also as dumb as a bag of hammers, and like, he just is. So for that reason, I'm gonna take Oleksiejczuk. Like, I like his boxing a lot. I think he lands a lot of straights. I also think he's dog tough, and I think his cardio is really good. I do think Pereira has improved in how wild he used to be, and he doesn't waste as much energy doing dumb shit. I mean, remember we used to watch this guy flipping around the cage and messing around, which absolutely sapped his gas tank. Yeah, and he doesn't do that as much anymore. I do think this is a fight that is tough to call because they are both very, very good, and I can see it going either way. I'm not supremely confident in this one. I just think that Oleksiejczuk is going to land the more clean scoring shots in 2 of the rounds. And Pereira sometimes, because of the way he fights, he looks very sloppy at times. And that can really be a bad look for the judges. So I think just based on that, I'm edging Oleksiejczuk. But this is a great matchup. And the fact that it's on the early prelims, again, is an indication of just how crazily good this card is.
That's true. That's very true. I think that while I agree on everything that you're saying, and I think that Oleksiejczuk is very disciplined, especially in comparison to Pereira, but I think that Pereira's wildness would actually do him some good in this fight because of how disciplined Oleksiejczuk is. You know, throwing some different angles, because that's what really catches people, is he throws things at just angles that make no sense. His fight IQ is a C- at best, but I think that because of his weirdness, his awkwardness, his crazy energy, I think that he finds a way to catch him in some weird way and hurt him at the very least, hurt him, if not finish him. So I'm actually going with Pereira on this one. It was hard to go against Oleksiejczuk because I do think that he's actually the better mixed martial artist, to be honest. But it's just sometimes that weirdness can allow you to win because because of different angles, different ways that punches and kicks and weird flipping shit happens, you just don't see it, and those are the ones that get you. Yeah, no, I can see the wisdom in this pick, and what again made this difficult is he looks fantastic at middleweight. He really looks like a natural at this weight class. I can't remember who he fought in his last performance, but he had somebody who I thought was really good, and I picked him to win that fight actually, and he looked great. So I can see the wisdom in it. And again, it's one that I'm not going to be betting on, I'll say for sure. Oh, it was Andre Petrosky or Petrosky. That he
who I actually thought was a bit of a fraud actually, so maybe that wasn't still a good win, you know. Petrosky was coming in with a lot of hype, so no gas tank, but he starched him out, destroyed him. Didn't need anything in the terms of a gas tank because he was asleep, so he didn't need it. Didn't have to worry about having any gas because the car had exploded at that point, so gas not required, no longer required. All right, so closing out the early prelims, we're moving up to light heavyweight. We've got Ion Cutelaba versus Felipe Lins. Now, this was a tricky one for me, and as you can probably tell by my lack of confidence in that last fight, this actually goes double for this one. I think Ion is more powerful. I mean, he's very aggressive. His wrestling's very decent, and obviously he's a lot younger. Again, though, it's that IQ issue that I have to bring up. It's a concern. Ion is a very dumb individual. Like, I think that's very fair to say. Like, so I can either see this fight going, again, two ways. It's going to sound like a little bit of a cop-out. But I think he's either going to chin Linz out in the first round, and we know that Linz is a little bit chinny, or Linz is going to find a way to negate that power in the first round, and it's going to go a full 3, and then Linz wins on the scorecard. Now, I am going to edge CUTELABA despite how dumb he is, and I think it's because of again, it's just the level of competition. You know, they've also got a common opponent in Boza, so I'm going to apply a little bit of bad MMA math here as I do. Boza chinned Linz, and Ion just chinned Boza. So, again, I'm going to apply that horrible math again. I just think that Linz, yeah, that chin is, I don't trust that chin, and he hasn't really fought anyone that good, so I think he's going to get caught.
This one was tough. It almost feels like fool's gold either way because of what you just said. Like, Linz could get chinned at any point, but he's got some. I mean, he knocked out OSP, but OSP is like 40. I mean, he had a decent fight with Grisham. Like, and then CUTELABA is. What's interesting about him is that he comes to the weigh-in so aggressive, but when he gets in the fight, he's not like aggressive like that. Like, he's actually kind of very calculated, which is really weird. But I think I'm gonna take a gamble and go Lin's way. And I think he might have one more interesting fight in the tank. He's another one. He's about the same age as Joanne Wood. So he's in his twilight, so he better make something happen. But I think that he finds a way to be just a one IQ point smarter than Ian CUTELABA. Like, so
you're saying he has an IQ of 2, is what you're saying?
Yes. That's actually, that is the exact number that I was thinking about.
Exact number.
Yeah. So I think that somehow or another he walks out with his hand raised. I don't think it's going to be a very entertaining fight necessarily. Well, it might be entertaining in the point of seeing two special needs people fight. But like, I think that I do think that that he's going to walk away with the win.
I've just realized, like I have drawn you down into the depths of my. I'm gonna get you beaten up as well one day. This is what it is. I'm not content enough with getting my own self killed. I'm dragging you into it as well. So I hope this channel never blows up, at least for a while, until we can sort our behavior out. Because one of us is going to be in serious trouble with the way we've.
It's going to show up in
the
my
way
house.
We talk about certain people. Yeah, and you're in America, bro. You're in way more danger than I am. I'm in the back halves of nowhere somewhere in the UK, so you have to struggle to find me. You know what I mean?
It's all right.
Anyway. All right, so on the screen now is a quick overview of the early prelims. I've had to kind of chop it up this way because there's so many fights. And again, I can honestly say that, you know, if those 5 fights we've just talked about were the main cards on most of the fight nights we had this year, it'd be on paper than better on paper than probably any of them. You know, again, I have to state that's how good this card is and how bad those fight nights were. Yeah. All right. So, opening up the prelims, boy, this is a great one. Jesus, we've got PHILLIPS versus MUNHOZ. Now, this was, again, really weird one for me. Again, I did pick PHILLIPS to be my bantamweight dark horse this year. So that seems to be a theme of this card. He's got a really long reach. And fighters out of MMA labs tend to be very underrated in their takedown defense. Very diverse striker, very unpredictable, very flashy. This is the same dude that people forget he schooled Song Yadong, who's fighting on the main cards. And if he hadn't got that drugs ban, he could have been in his spot right now. You know, the margins of that's slim. The thing is about MUNHOZ, though, he might be old, but he's so tough, so durable, got really good leg kicks. I think that this fight is going to be razor close. And the reason why I'm going to cop out a little bit on this one is My official pick is for it to go over 2.5. I am going to say, though, just to avoid looking like, again, like I'm copping out here, I do think that Phillips is going to edge it. I could see this going as a split decision either way. But what's really scaring me about the prospect of making a solid pick on this fight in particular is they have Phillips as a minus 200 favorite. And I think that this fight is a lot closer than that. I do think he's going to win, but I can't comfortably sit here and say to the 10 people watching, you know, bet on Phillips and you know, with those odds, because minus 200 is wide for a guy like Munhoz, who's very seasoned, very tough. So yeah, for that reason, I'm officially saying take the over 2.5, because I don't think Munhoz is going to get chinned, and I think Kyler's very durable as well. I can see this going split, man, and us, you know, getting to the end of the card and everyone being like, I don't know where this is going to go. Like, so for that reason, I can't say pick Phillips, even though I think he's younger and better. Just think, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I was torn on this one too. I think that Pedro Munhoz, despite, you know, his last 5 not looking stellar, he's still a game opponent. I don't really feel like he's really lost anything. I don't think that he's gotten worse by any means. He's just taking some bad L's. But that being said, yeah. That being said, I think that Kyler Phillips is on the uptick, and he is somebody who can string something together. Like you said, it's just really hard to pick against Kyler in this. I just feel like it's kind of his moment, and Pedro is kind of being used as a stepping stone to get Kyler into more interesting fights because of all the outside things that Kyler brings to the organization, from his look, his following, his fight style, all of those things. So I think this is kind of a litmus test for him to see if he really belongs. And I think that he does slightly pass it. I wouldn't almost, if I could bet on it being a split decision, I might actually do that. Because I kind of agree. That's how razor close this is. And it sucks for Pedro because he keeps getting put in these situations against people who are really good, and he's still really good. It's just, he's just not really good enough is the problem. Yeah. But I'm going Kyler. Definitely going Kyler.
Cool. Yeah. Speaking of Kyler's look, do you get like this is totally off topic, and again, this is going to get me beaten up, but do you get like a bearded lady vibe?
Yeah. It's you know, he has a kind of a soft appearance, not soft as in he's soft, but
I mean, he's a good looking dude. I'm not out here to hate, but there's just something very sort of, maybe it's the long hair as well and like the slim face.
Yeah.
But just with the beard on it, it just looks like,
yeah.
I think without the beard, he'd look less feminine in a weird way. I know that doesn't make sense.
That might be true.
Do you know what I mean?
It might be true. No, it actually does make sense. Yeah. Yeah. That's unfortunate for him, but maybe it's fortunate for him. I don't know. But
yeah. I don't know why we're talking about this. I'm really sorry, everyone. I just felt like it just suddenly came into my mind. And if you watch this channel, this isn't going to be a surprise to you that we've gone here. You know, I am
sometimes
sorry.
Sometimes bearded ladies come up. Who knows?
Not the weirdest thing we've talked about on this channel, to be fair. And, you know,
it isn't.
It's what it is. You get something different here. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, great fight. Yeah. Next one we've got again. What a fight to have on the prelims. We've got Mateusz Gamrot versus Rafael dos Anjos. Gamrot is obviously going to be the clear pick here, and I'm not going to deviate from that. You know, they're both really well-rounded guys. I just think Gamrot is a step above being more well-rounded in all areas. Again, the issue that I do have with this one, again, is the odds. Like, Gamrot is a near minus 500 favorite, which I think is just so disrespectful to the former champion. I think you can get Gamrot at like minus 475, something like that. I do think this one is going to go the distance. Gamrot obviously has the youth, and I don't like that Dos Anjos has been jumping up and down weight classes so often, especially at his age. I think this is going to get scrappy at times, and I just think Gamrot's going to have the better moments. I can see him winning 3 rounds to zip, or at worst 2 rounds to 1. I just think he's going to have the better moments in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if Gamrot wants to dominate this fight, he can. He just has to choose the right path. He can't be out here striking with RDA. Even though I think that Gamrot is well-rounded, I think that RDA is a better striker. And at this point, I think RDA's takedown defense is starting to suffer because of his reaction time, and that's just natural. He's 39 years old. You're not going to react as fast as you did when, you're 33. And so because of that, I think that Gamrot will be able to get to his legs and get him down. And that's what he needs to do to win this fight. And I think that he will. That's just a smart way to do it. I think that if he sticks to that game plan, then he'll walk away with a decision win. I don't see him finishing RDA at any point. Gamrot's not a finisher. Nah, Gamrot's not a finisher, and that's why he's not fighting for a belt. Plain and simple. He's just a John Fitch type of fighter, and the UFC doesn't really like this sort of thing. And so that's why he's fighting somebody who's not really going to propel him into title contention. And that sucks for him, but I do think he's going to win that fight.
Yeah, again, I think good summation. I do disagree slightly. I mean, I would have agreed slightly about Gamrot's stand-up. I just think that he did impress me in his stand-up against Fiziev, which really, I mean, I know that fight ended in really shitty circumstances, but I think he looked good on the feet. I think there was some clear
he did
there.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Which is why I don't see Dos Anjos giving him any trouble, really. But you're bang on about Dos Anjos' takedown defense. I mean, I actually picked him against, I don't know what I was thinking, but I picked him against Luque. And the ease in which Luque was able to take him down and dominate him in the clinch was very worrying. That's not really Luque's game.
No.
And he did he did to Dos Anjos what I was expecting Dos Anjos to do to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I like Gamrot in this one, and I do think he is very good. It's just, this is going to be one of those.
I think the loss when Dos Anjos got knocked out by Fiziev, like, I think that was the last time we were going to see a good Dos Anjos. Be honest.
Yeah.
I think that was
a
it.
soul snatcher.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because he was doing very, very well in that fight. It was very, very close. But then Fiziev decided that it was over.
Yeah, just like, I'm done playing around here. Good night. It was that kind of situation. Yeah, I think this is a good call. I think, again, the minus 500 isn't great, but it is what it is. All right. Yeah. Now, next one. We've got Chookagian versus Barber. Now, I know Chookagian's going by another name, but, I'm old. I can't be bothered to start switching things up now. So I'm going to call her Chookagian. So fuck that. I don't care who you've married and shout out. This is too much for me. I can't help it. And I quite like saying Chookagian. Like, I enjoy it. It's one of the few names in the game that I actually get a little buzz from saying, so I'm going to stick with that. This one is... I know you're not going to agree with this. Or I assume you're not going to agree with this. I don't know what your feelings are. I'm about to find out. I don't like Macy Barber. I think she's very overrated. And I've got like a little bit of a... This is where my prediction for this one gets a little bit weird. I think Chookagian is going to clearly win this fight, for everyone with working eyeballs at least. I think she's going to outland her with better boxing. I also think that Chookagian, she's very long-limbed, and I think that's going to help her to negate Barber's takedowns, which can be sloppy at times. She tends to dive in from far out often, which really puts me off. Now, I know Barber looked really good against Ribas, but, she got pieced up quite a lot in that before winning it, before starching Ribas back. I just think that Barber's very sloppy, and I don't think she's that technical. Now, from a betting perspective, I'm going to advise people, and what I've just mentioned, I'm going to advise people to take the over 2.5 on this, but I really think we're going to get a robbery here. I think it's going to be Chookagian's going to piece her up for pieces of the fight. Barber's going to, rush in, try to grab the legs, get hit a bit, and somehow win a decision. The UFC is really high on her, and I just think I think she's going to win. We're literally going to be all tearing our hair out at the end of this fight. That's what I expect.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say over 2.5 for that reason.
So I do like Barber a lot.
That's it. I'm done. I'm leaving.
I like her a lot, man. I do, but what you said about her sloppiness is true. It's very true. On the flip side, you got CHOOKAGIAN, who is as precise and polished as you can get, but I feel like she has no pop in her punches at all whatsoever. And so because of that, and because of the way that Barber likes to proceed, she will walk through any of those punches to get where she needs to get. And that's where we're going to have our issues with the judging, because I do think that CHOOKAGIAN will outland her, but Barber will land the more devastating type of shots. And it may be far less, but I think that you're going to get more of a reaction from what she does to CHOOKAGIAN than what CHOOKAGIAN does to her. And add in the fact that, you know, like you said, people do kind of want to see Barber do well. And CHOOKAGIAN, she just never really got over the championship hump, even though she stayed, you know, either ranked 1 or 2 for the longest. So I do think Barber walks out of this with a win, whether it's right or wrong. And I'm here for it. I think that she's going to walk out with this win.
You disgust me, sir. This is...
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
we all
I hate her.
they all get one. They all get a gift. Everybody gets a gift from time to time.
She's had so many gifts, bro. She's had too many. She's up to her eyeballs in free gifts at this point. You know, this girl has had so many fortuitous decisions go her way, and I think it's because I want to see her get stomped so badly. I think that's where I'm at now.
It'll happen at some point.
Oh, it will.
She runs into the right person. We'll see. She better improve between now and then.
Maybe this is out of hope rather than expectation. I don't think CHOOKAGIAN's that good either, or whatever her name is. I don't think she's that good either. But
I think it's a Sarmanara.
Whatever.
I don't know.
I ain't learning it. It's CHOOKAGIAN. All right, so we move swiftly. This is going to be a long video, bro, but I'm here for it. I'm gonna say, so this is obviously, so we're gonna go into heavyweights, and again, if it's not obvious how good this card is, this headlines any fight night, and nobody complains. We've got Blaydes versus Almeida. Now, firstly, I think this fight is gonna really suck, despite what I just said. But, you know, it really makes sense for the division. So for that reason, it's a fight that has to happen. It might not be the most entertaining of fights, and I'm not expecting it to be, but it has to happen. And I'm going to go against everyone here, and I'm actually going to pick Curtis Blaydes. I don't think either man are particularly great strikers. I do think Blaydes is more explosive in his takedowns, but at the same time, he's not as good on the ground as Almeida is. So there could be a bit of a problem there if he does get it down. He could be, you know, leaving himself open to getting jiu-jitsu'd. I'm going to edge Blaydes, though, because I just think he's huge compared to Almeida. You know, Blaydes tends to do badly against guys that have KO power. And I just think Almeida isn't that, you know. Blaydes basically has to cut to make 265. And, you know, Almeida, from what I remember, I think he came in against Lewis at, like, I think it was between 230, 235.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to struggle to get Blaydes down. And that's basically where he does all of his work. I do like the over on this one as well, by the way. But yeah, for the reasons of size, and that's basically all I've got to go on, because they both got very similar games, I'm going to edge Blaydes. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, so... Curtis Blaydes has lost to 3 people, and they are all knockout artists. Francis twice, Derek Lewis, and Sergey Pavlovich. So with that being the case, I feel like his acumen in the cage, his size, like you said, and when it gets to ground and pound, like when he has an attitude, like he has some nasty ground and pound. And for somebody who's coming up, I mean, he's a legit heavyweight, but he's, like you said, he's a smaller heavyweight. And getting pounded on by a man that's 30, 35, depending on what he comes in after the weigh-in, like 40 pounds heavier than you, like, that's a lot. And most of the time when we see Almeida operate with his jiu-jitsu game, he's on top. It's top pressure. I mean, as far as his bottom game, I'm sure he has, a game, on bottom, but how often does he have to employ that when he's getting punched in the face by somebody who's 40 pounds more than him? So I gotta go Curtis Blades, man. I think that I wasn't that high on Almeida from the jump. I thought that he would get ranked because heavyweight is a shallow division, but I didn't think that he was championship material. I didn't put him up there with the Pavlovich, the Aspinalls of the division. I just didn't think he was that good because I felt like he's very one-dimensional. He's got good kicks, but he doesn't necessarily set them up. He throws,
yeah. No, you're right.
He throws kicks to get people to react so he can grab them. And that's just not going to work with Curtis Blades. It's just not going to work. This is tailor-made for Curtis Blades to reestablish himself in the championship picture because he's kind of the person that's just been left out. But I think that he gets this win.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you there. And it's kind of funny that we're talking about this now because we do have something going on later on where we do discuss this. So bit of a spoiler potentially for that one. I like the over. I think this is going to be a horrendously boring fight, but I think Blades has got this. I just think he's massive and I think he's going to get it done, and I hope he does because I like him. All right, so on the screen now again we've got an overview of the prelims. Again, I've had to break it up into 3 because it's just that big a card. Again, those 4 fights we've just had again could completely headline any fight night, and any of them belong potentially on main cards of other pay-per-view cards as well. So this is, again, I have to restate this. This is not a card you want to miss.
Not at all.
If you're a casual who occasionally jumps in and you don't know these names or some of these names, you might just be an O'Malley guy, which a lot of people will be. This is a killer card from top to bottom, and don't miss it. Right. Now this is where this gets interesting because holy shit, this main card is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So amazing, in fact, that we get a bantamweight fight to kick the card off between Petr Yan and Song Yadong. Now, I have no idea where you're going to go on this one, but all I can say, I'm not going to get too far into this. I'm not ready to give up on Petr Yan yet. Like, I know that he's technically lost 3 in a row. The first was a DQ. He was dominating that fight against Aljo, who is sensational. He obviously lost the rematch of that fight. It was a reasonably close fight, but Aljo, won that 3-2, and I've already stated what I feel about Aljo. Then he loses to Merab, and Merab is Merab. That style is really impossible to deal with, and I do think that Petr underestimated him. If you look back and see what Merab has gone on to do to Cejudo, like, the fight with Petr was actually quite a close fight at times. Like, even though Merab clearly won it in terms of how he went about the fight, there were moments when Petr looked good in that fight. So I think that loss in a way has aged very well. Now, I do love Song Yadong. His boxing's amazing. His takedown game is always good. We know how Team Alpha Male guys are. But I just think Yan is a touch better in all those areas. And more importantly, I think he's going to come in there with a massive chip on his shoulder. Like, he's taken some time off, significant time off. And I think he's going to come back in here with a vengeance. And I think he's going to get back on track. I can see this one being a bit close, though. Like, I know I'm saying come back with a vengeance. But, Song is very good. And another split wouldn't surprise me. I would have... This fight should be going... It should be a 5-round fight. But I'm going to take Yan... Yeah, I'm going to take Yan to edge it by having the more impactful moments. And I think he's going to get himself back into contention. People forget how fucking scary this man is. And I think he's going to remind the world.
Yeah. I think that This one was really hard for me to try to figure out, and even in me talking about it, I still go back and forth because, man, Song Yadong is so good, man. He's so good, and at this point, he's so experienced. He's got so many fights, and he's only 26 years old. And by the same token, Peter Yan is, despite those 3 losses, and you just detailed them, like, he's a champion, man, like a legit champion, legit. So like, I almost wish this fight, I mean, it should have been headlining at the worst a fight night, like, or like co-main something, top 3 something, because of how important it is to the division. And also, if somebody falls out of the main fight, I'm sure they're going to take somebody from this one to fill in. So I think this is super important for the division. I think that whoever wins this fight is right there with everybody else at the top of the bantamweight division for the belt. So I got to go, and I'm going to regret this. I'm going to go Song Yadong. Because I just feel like when it's in boxing range, I think he'll just be a little bit quicker than Peter, just a little bit. And I think that his power is going to come through. But I do think it's going to be a very close fight, and it's going to be a very tactical fight. And a lot is going to be made from what the corners give to them in between rounds. You know, whatever instruction they give could really change the balance of the fight, and how well they take on that instruction and try to jump in and take advantage of the holes in the other person's game. But it's going to be such a close fight. But I'm going to lean Song Yadong for the only reason of youth. That's the only reason I'm leaning towards Song. But I wouldn't be surprised if Peter walked away, and I kind of wish that Peter walks away with the win, to be honest, because I don't think he's the type of person I don't believe deserves to be on a 3-fight losing streak because of how good he is.
Yeah, I don't think any of us saw that coming, and
yeah,
I think it feels like a win-win, in that a win-win, lose-lose again. You know, I'd be happy to see both guys win. I like both guys a lot, so
yeah,
I just it was a tough one as well. I went back and forth on this quite a bit as well, but the fact that we've described virtually the same situation but picked different guys shows how potentially close this one could be. All right, next fight, another great one. We've got Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. Now, all the way up to this, I was going to pick Gilbert Burns, but I did change my mind not that long ago, but like long enough ago where I'm fairly solid on it. I'm going to take Jack, but I think this is like a really tough test for him. Now, the reason why I'm a little bit dubious is because we saw what Jack was like on the ground against Hafez. He was horrendous when it got down there. But having said that, his takedown defense is actually very, very underrated. He is very, very hard to take down. And when I went to go and rewatch that fight, when I did the prospects or overrated fight, it was in an overrated fighters video where I actually said Jack was overrated. I was surprised going back on it and seeing how good his takedown defense actually is. And for me, I just love the way he puts pressure on with his hands. You know, I'm a very big advocate for body shots, and the way he digs to the body, for me, is probably the best in the UFC. Like, I do expect this one to be a tough fight. I think there are going to be moments in the fight when Gilbert does okay. And again, there is that worry that if Burns does find a way to get it to the ground, if there's some kind of slip or some kind of moment where Jack ends up on the bottom, that could be a big problem. Again, horrible on the ground, got no game there whatsoever. I just think that Burns at his current age now is going to struggle to get it there. I think if this was Gilbert Burns 3 years ago, 5 years ago, I'd be picking him. I think Gilbert Burns is fantastic, but he's just, I think he's too old now. And I think this goes the distance, and I think Jack wins this fight 2-1 or maybe even 3-0. I'm going with Jack.
Yeah. This is one where I had to kind of push my heart to the side because of how much of a Gilbert Burns fan I am. And I've watched a lot of his training leading up to this, and I mean, he looks great, but who doesn't look great in training? And the reality is, he's 37 and Jack is 27, and what we saw in Gilbert's last fight, now mind you, he did get hurt. He still didn't seem like the same person that fought Khamzat Chimaev. He didn't seem like the person that was running through the welterweight division on his way to fighting Kamaru Usman. And so with that being the case, he's a little bit older than he was when he last lost. I think that he's in a situation where he has to get the fight to a certain place. Anytime a fighter doesn't have options and they have to get the fight to a certain place, then that makes them very predictable. And Jack knows where he can't be. And it's going to be hard to get him there. Just like you said, his takedown defense is stellar. I think that there is a path for Gilbert to win. And I think that Gilbert still has power. But where I have struggles is his ability to continue to chain wrestle to get him down. And I don't know if he has that want to or that drive to do that, to be able to get Jack down, because I mean, there's obviously a reward once he gets him down there. So
yeah,
because of that, I think that Jack has an ability to keep it standing. What I will say though is Jack needs to finish him. Jack needs to finish. When he fought Kevin Holland, he allowed Kevin to hang around and keep it interesting and en route to a split decision. He cannot do that with Gilbert, because Gilbert has fight ending power at any point. So you can't allow him to stay around, and you can't allow it to go to the judges just because of optics and where he wants to be. So because of those things, Jack really does kind of need a finish to stay relevant in this division where he's really fighting against Ian Gary to get to that top spot. So he does need to do that, but I do side with, unfortunately, JDM to get this win and Gilbert to catch another L. Dang, it sucks.
And it could be, and it could be we could get a second retirement potentially.
Could be.
If your one comes to fruition, because this is basically, it's make or break for Gilbert, because if he doesn't win this, they're going to give him more up and coming killers behind him. He's going to be nowhere near the belt. He's made enough money.
Yeah.
It'd be sad, but we'll see. All right, so the next fight on the card, we have two welterweights. I'm personally really excited about this, and I'm really interested to hear what your take, especially, is going to be on this one. We've got Michael Venom Page versus Kevin Holland, and what a great fight this potentially could be. And I've been waiting for a long time to see what Page could maybe do in the UFC. Now, a lot of the criticisms directed at this guy is how many cans he's fought in his career, and that is a concern. But I actually think he's going to beat Kevin Holland on Saturday night. Now, the concern for me on Holland's side is he seems to win fights, where he can kind of use his range very well. He's very, very long for a welterweight, but he's going to be fighting somebody who's equally as rangy. And I think that Page is going to bring like a level of unorthodox striking that Holland's never really had to deal with. And I feel like he's going to land something big in this one. He has the power advantage. And I think Kevin is going to have some moments landing. He's going to land that jab, and he might actually have a better chance in this fight if he goes for a takedown. But, we know Kevin Holland doesn't like to do this really, and I expect this to stay striking. And I just have this weird feeling. I know maybe it's a little bit of Brit bias here. I have a feeling that Page is going to get a statement win here, and that he's going to propel himself into some really good fights later on in the year. So yeah, I'm going with MVP.
It's not a bad pick. And this is another one of those situations on the card where I really didn't know which way to go, and I really had to really search within myself to figure this out. But I think that this fight will be won based on what Kevin Holland decides. If Kevin decides that he wants to be in a fun fight, then this fight will look very similar to the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight, because MVP, for all his flashiness, for everything that he does, he fights very much like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He has the same, very similar stance. His hands are in a very similar place. And those things gave Kevin problems. And in the Wonderboy Thompson fight, he chose to keep it standing. And sure, that parlayed into some nice commercials and a very exciting fight for the fans. But it also turned out to be a loss where he broke his hand. So does he want to do that again? Or is moving up the rankings actually interesting to him? Because if it is, then he'll use some of his grappling. And a lot of people don't know it, but he is actually very good on the ground. He's not very good at wrestling, but he's very good once the fight gets to the ground. So me thinking that I am in the head of what Kevin Holland is going to do, he's going to fight a very exciting fight, and MVP is going to take advantage of this, and he's going to piece him up, and it's probably going to be that jab coming from down by his legs. It's going to be the main culprit in causing this fight to swing towards MVP. I don't know if he'll actually make a massive statement because of how elusive Kevin is when it comes to being finished with strikes. He'll get finished by grappling, he'll get choked out or something, but it's hard to finish him by strikes because he moves around too much. And he always feels like he's one punch away. But I do think the MVP unfortunately wins this fight. And I like MVP a lot. And it's just that I've really been hoping that Kevin puts it together mentally to really want to be somebody that's in that championship picture. And it doesn't feel like he really wants to be there at this point in time. So I think it's MVP's fight to lose.
Yeah. I think it's the mental aspect that you've touched upon there that has made me sway in favor of MVP, because I think I love Kevin Holland. Again, what you said is exactly bang on for me as well. I want to see him get it together. But he, the talk about retirement he had previously was something that played on my mind as well. He doesn't seem to be somebody who's interested in, like you said, making that run towards the belt. He's making a lot of money, and I think his legacy is more, or what he sees his legacy as, is more being defined as, I want to have those fun fights. And I think if he goes into this fight with MVP and he does go grappling heavy, and he does use that ground game where he does a very nasty, how many TKOs have you seen on the ground by punches? Never really happens. He's got that in his locker. No. It's just that I think he wants to be remembered more for being that guy, the guy who gets in fun fights, and win or lose, that's how he wants to be remembered. Exactly. And I think he'll always have a job and a place in the UFC as long as he wants it, because he is very much liked by the brass, and he is willing to say, do you know what, I'm going to throw logic out the window and fight the way people want to see me fight, as opposed to fighting the fight that he probably should fight, or the smarter way to fight. And I think if you do that with somebody like MVP, that's why I feel like when I say MVP is going to win make a statement win, it could just be by winning the fight, because I think a lot of people are picking Holland here. I do think he's going to catch him with something. He might not necessarily knock him out. I can see him dropping him with something flashy, and that being something to stick on the highlight reel. So that's probably more where I'm leaning towards. I'd be happy if either guy won. I love both dudes. I would time too. For both of them in my life.
Yeah, I would be happy either way. I would be sad either way as well for whoever loses. Because for Kevin Holland, if he loses, I feel like it doesn't really set him back as much. Just because it just puts him more firmly in that Cowboy Cerrone, Derek Lewis, Joe Lozon, just that lane of people who are really good fighters, but aren't somebody that you would consider for a championship. And he would just fit right neatly in that area where he's super popular, makes a lot of money, but belts aren't really on his mind. But for MVP, if MVP loses, totally different story. He's 36 years old, and people are going to really start looking at him as being an old welterweight.
And also a fraud.
Yeah.
Also a fraud, because like as good as he was in Bellator and he had some impressive wins, if you look at the CV, it's not brilliant. And he has some iffy wins in there that was sort of, you know, I feel like it would really tarnish him for good if he did lose this one. But it says a lot about this fight that, you know, we've got one of the most stacked cards of all time, and this is the feature fight. It shows how what they're expecting and marketing this fight to be. So hopefully we get that.
I hope so.
All right. So we're moving on to the co-main now. We've got a very what feels like a really significant, important lightweight scrap, especially with the way the division is now. Dustin Poirier and Benoit Saint Denis, and again, Saint Denis. What a great fight. We both spoke about Benoit quite a lot when we talked about the fights we wanted to see. He was one of the rare names that came up on both of our tickets as somebody that we wanted to see go to war with somebody. And boy, is he being thrown in the deep end here.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Now, what's surprising me about this one is a lot of people, maybe I'm not surprised. I mean, a lot of people are picking him to get it done, and I totally understand this. You know, Poirier just got KO'd. He's aging. And Saint Denis is incredibly tough. You know, he's got the heart of a lion. Really well-rounded, really dangerous. I don't like Dustin Poirier. You know this. I think he's an absolute wet wipe. But for some reason, I can't get Benoit's fight with Oleksiejczuk dos Santos out of my mind. He got so outclassed in that fight badly. I know it was a weight class up. It was one of the worst beatings I've ever seen. And as great as Benoit has looked, who's he beating this elite? You know, he got in a firefight with Frivola. He caught him. He got quite scrappy with Thiago Moises, who is he's fine, but he's not elite. Now, the Ismail Bonfim fight, I thought was a weird one because Ismail came in there very, very arrogant, and he basically let him kick the shit out of him. Clearly didn't respect him until he realized, hang on a second, this guy's actually good, and it was too late. But what kills it for me though is they've got Poirier as plus 200, and this is a 5-rounder. It's a 5-rounder,
which he requested.
Benoit's gone 3 rounds twice in his whole career, and in one of them he got absolutely abused. Like, I actually want Benoit to win. I love the dude. This is such a big step up. Like, I hope he gets it done. I just think Poirier is going to drag him into deep water, and I think he's going to win later on in the fight. And at plus 200, I can't ignore that. I've made a parlay already, and I've got Poirier in it. That's where I am.
Yeah. Well, Dustin Poirier is my favorite current fighter on the roster. And so me picking against him is very difficult. And in any time that I pick against him, it's for very logical reasons. In this particular case, I feel that Benoit Saint Denis is well equipped to be able to walk away with a win, but it's something about the knowledge of being in a 5-round fight, like somebody who's been there before, who knows where to dig deep, how to rest, when to take time off, when to breathe, when to get your mental in the right place. And Dustin Poirier has done this over and over and over and over again. And I don't think that in his case, his skills have eroded to the point where Benoit Saint Denis can really take advantage. You know, when we saw Jorge Masvidal against Gilbert Burns, you could tell his skills had eroded in the sense of his timing. His timing was just not there anymore. And when we saw Dustin Poirier last against Justin Gaethje, leading up to that kick, nothing looked wrong. Nothing looked wrong at all. And he just got caught with that kick. And that's what happens. Yeah. I think that Dustin Poirier, he teaches him the art of the 5-round fight. And this, with a loss, this is actually going to make Benoit Saint Denis better. And he's going to take this loss and he's going to come back even more vicious. And then we will really treat then we'll really see Benoit Saint Denis and see the run. So I think that this is a loss that he needs to have. But I am going Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, again, very difficult. I actually thought you might go with, because I forgot how much you love Poirier.
It's my guy.
I also think, I think what you said about the Gaethje fight is bang on as well. I think he looked sharp. I think he looked great early on in that fight. And I think the big problem that he had in that one was that, obviously, with him having beaten Gaethje before, he had this aura about him, or this arrogance about him, like he just had to go out there and get it done. And I think he underestimated how much Gaethje had improved since then.
Yeah,
you know, and I don't even mean in terms of his. I don't think even in terms of his fight skill, but in terms of his fight mentality. You know, Gaethje had patient Gaethje.
Yep. And I think you know what, like on that note, like it wasn't like total arrogance in a sense, but it was like, you can't put me away with one shot. And the shot that he did put him away with, that kick, it was partially blocked, but because of the power of Gaethje, it went right on through, wrapped around his head, and sat him down. And it's not something that I think that Dustin thought could even possibly happen, because he thought he had already felt his power. So it was unfortunate, but I don't think that will hurt him here. I think that he'll be fine. I think that he has one more attempt at a championship run left in him, and this is going to be a stepping stone to get back into that conversation. Yeah,
very dangerous fight to take, and you know,
very.
Again, as you said, I wouldn't be shocked if Benoit got it done, but I think this is it's a big step up so soon. And again, I will just quickly add as well, Poirier has been in multiple 5-round fights, and he's only actually been to the 5th round twice, which I was quite surprised in looking this up. But it's what you said about their mentality. It's being in those 5-round fights over and over again, and thinking about how to manage that. Whether you get there or not is irrelevant, but knowing what you need to do and being in that position is so good. Benoit's first fight being against a guy like Poirier, I think it's a big ask.
Big one.
I hope he gets it done.
Big one.
I know you don't, but I hope he does.
I hope he doesn't. I hope he loses embarrassingly.
You'll be the first person I message when he's out cold, arse up, messaging you immediately. I'd be like, I'm glad I got this wrong.
And I'm going to be sitting here with my Dustin Poirier war hat on, and I'll just take it off and tip it to Benoit Saint Denis if he wins. But I don't think I'll be doing that.
Yeah, I don't think you will be either. All right, main event. We've got Sean O'Malley obviously versus Marlon Vera 2. Now we obviously know about all the nonsense from the first fight, the perennial nerve, the I'm still undefeated memeing that's gone on since then, and I've personally been very amused by all of it, if I'm being completely honest. Now, you know, I've said this multiple times, like, I don't think Vera should be fighting for the belt. You know, he's coming off a very scrappy win against MUNHOZ. Having said that, and obviously he got destroyed by Corey, but, you know, I've said enough about that in the past already. I actually think this is a very good fight. And as I've said in previous videos, I actually give Vera a better chance than most do. Now, we talked about the 5-round experience thing again. O'Malley's only been in one 5-round fight that got to that conclusion in his career. And it was as an amateur, which does concern me, because Cheeto has a chin that was made by the gods. You know, this guy's ability to take a shot is second to none, in my opinion, in the UFC. And that's kind of where I'm a little bit conflicted in this fight, because I think Cheeto could potentially make it go 5 rounds. But the reason why I'm going to stick with O'Malley as a pick is the one thing I find so frustrating about Cheeto is he is incredibly slow to get going. And I think if you give somebody like O'Malley the time to get comfortable and land on you before you can figure things out, the fight could be way out of hand and gone before you can get a chance to get back into it. So I think, the way that I see this going, I think O'Malley is going to piece him up for the first 3 rounds. And I think we end up getting a very close 4th and 5th round. That's how I see this going. I think this is going to hit the over. I think O'Malley's going to face some tricky moments in the back end of the fight, but I think that he does enough clear damage in the first 3 to get this on the scorecards. Like, I actually want Vera to win. I like him, and I think for the banter it would be hilarious, but this is how I see the fight going.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Cheeto's definitely a slow starter that's going to plague him in this fight. It's very reminiscent of what people used to say about Cowboy. Like, they would tell him all before the fight, hey, you got to start fast. And everybody knows he's a slow starter. And what does he do? Go in there and start slow anyway.
Plodding.
And I feel like Cheeto's going to do the same thing. O'Malley, like you said, is going to start to rack up some strikes on him and put some rounds in his pocket. But I think the difference is when it comes to Sean O'Malley versus other fighters, is not only will he rack up the rounds, but his precision will get even better. He'll be able to find shots better. And because of that, and because of his sneaky, long, string being power that he has, I think that if somehow or another he's going to find a finish and put in the extra motivation that all of us hear him saying, you know, oh, I didn't lose to that guy, but he knows he lost to that guy. And this is the one dude that put that little one strike on your record. Oh, you want to get it back, and you want to get it back with a vengeance. I think that he finds a way to finish Cheeto. And if he does, and he finishes the one guy that beat him, his star explodes even more. And a lot of people don't think that he's a superstar, and that's fair, because he's not on the level that we thought he was going to be on. But him beating Cheeto would definitely help him get there. That won't be the nail in the coffin, but it'll definitely help quite a bit. But I definitely got Sean winning, and I got him winning by finish.
I think it's a very bold claim. I find that you're able to kind of sway my opinion quite well at times. You know, the way you eloquently put things are. I genuinely thought that O'Malley was going to lose to to Peter Yan? He was going to lose to I thought he was going to lose the title fight.
Oh, okay.
Against Aljo? He was going to lose in the title fight against Aljo. Yeah. I don't know why his name slipped my mind. I thought he was going to lose the fight to Aljo. I just thought that Aljo was going to out wrestle him, bring him down. So I've doubted Sean O'Malley multiple times, even though I rate him so highly. I think in terms of striking, he's one of the best in the UFC in terms of, well, like you said, the precision and stuff that you alluded to. It's just that chin on Cheeto. I do think he's going to piece him up for great parts of this fight. He could finish him because he's proven me wrong so many times. I didn't think he was going to finish Aljo. I thought it was going to be a whole 5 rounds where he probably, if he does win, he edges it out by outstriking him in certain rounds. I didn't expect him to starch him like that. Yeah. I don't know. I just think Vera's chin is next level, and I think O'Malley will win.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's going to go the distance. I think it's going to be and I think it will be still be a win that adds to his star power, as you put, because Vera, if he stops Vera, if he lays Vera out, I think that's when you get that propulsion into superstardom, because people that know about Vera's chin. Yeah, if you starch him.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of what we just saw with Topuria. If Topuria would have beaten Volkanovski and it went to the scorecards, and he beat him, even if he beat him 4 rounds to 1, we would have been like, okay, no, great job, he won that fight. He's he's really doing good things, but he knocked him senseless. Now his stock has exploded, and I think that Sean, it'll be a similar thing if he's able to get Cheeto out of there. Even though Cheeto's obviously not on the level of Alex Volkanovski, but we already know his chin is legendary. And the thing is I feel like Cheeto knows his chin is legendary too. And I think that he puts himself in harm's way in this fight because of their history. because of the win that he has over him. That's why I think that he allows himself to be more in harm's way, and you can't do that against Sean. He's going to find the shot. His striking reminds me of the way that Conor was striking back at featherweight, where his precision was just next level. It was just ridiculous how spot on he was with his strikes. And Sean reminds me of that. I'm not saying it's on that level, but it's going that direction. And I think that he finds a way to do it this time. And that is a shot in the dark. I don't hear anybody saying that that he's going to finish him.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's saying he's going to finish him. Yeah, and that's why I said it's an interesting take. And again, it's not based on what's happened in his not so distant past. It's not. I'm surprised I'm not hearing it more. But I don't think it's ridiculous. Like, it could very much like go down that way. Like, and again, in terms of, I enjoy Sean O'Malley. Like, I do think he's had a little bit of luck on the. I think the whole what is kind of dimming his star power to an extent is that to a lot of people he feels like a plant, you know, and that the UFC really want him to. He's been almost anointed from day one in terms of. It's felt like the minute he won on that Contender Series, or was it the Contender Series where he won?
Yeah.
His first fight, yeah. It's felt like since then he's been the anointed one, and that come hook or crook, he's going to get into this position, and he obviously had to get there. But that rubs people up the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know, and it feels like the company is what wants you to be there, and I think that's worked against him. I think if they laid off that, they could do a lot for him, but they won't. So
no, they're going to keep pushing it, and I think that I agree. They have allowed him or presented him with opportunities, but he did take them. He took them, and he did well with them. Whether people think that he won or lost against Peter Yan, they can't say that he got in there and got starched or outclassed or any of those things.
No,
he fought Peter Yan. Yeah. Win or lose, and I said that going into the fight, win or lose, if he goes in there and shows that he belongs with a person who is right there for the championship, like, that's a win. And he did that, and then beat the person that beat him, knocked him out. So, like, yeah, they gave him that, but you know, they gave Sage Northcutt opportunities. They gave Paige Van Zant opportunities, and they just couldn't capitalize, and he did.
Yeah, and that's a very fair point to make. And the thing is, regardless of what people say about his personality or whatever, I enjoy the guy. I don't have anything against him. When it comes to the striking, as you put, I don't think that comparison with featherweight McGregor is unfair. He is elite. He is an elite striker and an elite precision striker, which is something we don't get that much in MMA, surprisingly. You know, if you look at the striking percentages, it's often seen as like 50% is incredible in terms of accuracy. It's this guy is, he is incredible, and you know, it's gonna be a great fight. I just think it's gonna be he's gonna have to face some adversity to get through this, because Cheeto seems to plod his way through fights at certain times, and then he catches you. I think it's part of his game plan.
He's dangerous. He's dangerous.
So dangerous.
Dangerous. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and it should be a great main event. All right, so before we wrap it up, as we always do, is there anything that you want to talk about? Oh, actually, first, before I say that, here is an overview of both of our picks, as we always do. It's a good thing that I didn't forget to mention that, because it's a ball ache in the editing to not mention that. So here is the main card breakdown of our picks. So yeah, as I was gonna say, anything you want to talk about to anyone who could be listening? Yeah,
for sure. Couple of things that we got out there now. We got a conversation that we had about Khabib Nurmagomedov, whether he is the GOAT or not, maybe. And we also talk about
we got our first Frankie rant screenshot as well, which because I had a look at the video this morning.
Rant.
Like, the Frankie rants, yeah.
That's a good one.
That was a highlight.
Yep. So just a couple of videos out on the channel. Y'all go check them out. Sub if you haven't. But yeah, got more to come.
Yeah, and as I always do, I don't just recommend you because you're a friend of the channel. Like you're like I was a fan of your channel before we started going, and it's something that I always enjoy what you talk about, and it's always presented in a brilliant way. So as I said, if you're here for the first time, get over there as well. All right, so we'll see you for the, like I said, there'll be videos on here every day. We've got plenty in the pipeline, and as always, we will see you for the breakdown on Saturday night, assuming I'm not too drunk to do it, which is very possible. But this one.
O'Malley.
You might get it on Sunday.
O'Malley.
Yeah. I'm getting toasted for this one, bro. There's no way around it. I'm gonna have a bottle of whiskey in hand, and I'm gonna be passed out probably for most of it, but we'll see.
Oh yeah, I think we're gonna record our reactions to the fights too, me and CJ. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be good to see her back on camera again.
For sure.
In a bit, guys.